Hello gamers, I'm J104, and if you've seen any of the videos on my channel, you may have heard me mention the game Life is Strange once or twice or 1,000 times before, as I have covered the games themselves and brought it up in a bunch of other videos. And some of you may know that after the making of Life is Strange 2, Don't Nod Entertainment, the developers of the first two games, were removed from the series due to the poor reception of Life is Strange 2 by Square Enix, and it was handed over to Deck 9, the creators of Before the Storm, True Colors and Double Exposure. But what happened to Don't Nod after that? Well, it would seem they took a bit of a break to sort themselves out and plan out their next game. Would it stray away from the episodic emotional games of Life is Strange? Of course not. When you make games like that, you don't just go back to making action games or something like that, which is why they opened a second studio to focus on those action games that they maybe want to make. But the next game that Don't Nod would come out with was Tell Me Why, published by Xbox Game Studios, and yes, every time I launch the game I said out loud, "Ain't nothing but a heartache." Tell Me Why ain't nothing but a heartache is like Life is Strange in more ways than one, as Don't Nod keep their knack for exploring harder to talk about topics, like the relationship between Max and Chloe, or Chloe and Amber, and the suicide of Kate Marsh and whatever the hell Mark was. Well, in Tell Me Why they go into something that's a bit more of a modern, more known about social problem. I say modern not in the term that it wasn't happening before, but it's just more in the public zeitgeist due to social media and stuff like that, and the polarizing nature of politics these days, which is a good thing. But as you can tell, this topic can be controversial, as I just mentioned. So, for once, I'm trying to really think about what I say before just splurting it out. That problem being the many troubles and tribulations of transgender people that they run into just trying to live their lives. And how did Don't Nod achieve this? Well, by being at the first major studio game to have a main character who is trans. Now, I cannot comment on if they did a good job creating a realistic trans man who is not a stereotype, as I'm very much straight, cisgendered, and am mostly white, so I probably can't speak on that at all. But I can read and see what people with authority on the topic have been saying, and it would seem the game did very well at capturing what it's like to be a trans man and trying to grow up in that environment, with Don't Nod working with a organisation called GLAAD, or Gays and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. The game is also highly rewarded for its work on the character Tyler Ronan, with a lot of trans people saying they did an amazing job, and the game winning awards like Gaming's, spelt GAYMING's, Authentic Representation Award and Best LGBTQ Character, and winning the Game Awards Game for Impact in 2020. And it also won some awards from GLAAD themselves, but when you work very closely with the developers on the game, then award the game for your work, it just seems to me like that meme of Obama giving himself a medal. So I'm not going to count those ones, at least in my head. But that's to say, I believe that Tyler Ronan is a good take on the trans man, but from here on out I'm mostly not going to mention it unless it's needed for a part of the story. And as you can tell, I have also been very careful not to mention my own thoughts towards the issue, as once again, I'm not in a position to speak about it, and I'm not very informed on the topic. Like, I think my reading into it for this video is the most I've ever read into it. All I can say is I truly don't care what you do to find happiness in your life, as long as it's legal and you're not hurting other people. Or not even happiness, but to feel more like yourself, I guess would be a more correct way of saying it. But now that we are finished talking about Tyler Ronan and the game's overall impact in the ability to represent a trans man, it's time to talk about Tell Me Why, and more importantly, its release, which much like LAS 1 and 2 was done episodically, with the chapters being released one a week from August the 27th till September the 10th, with the game being 3 chapters long. And I've always wondered if the chapter episode releasing damages the game's sales over just plumping it all out at once. I'm guessing if it does, it's not majorly, as why would they then do it like that? And to my knowledge, the pricing is still like $30 for the whole game, even when they're doing the episodic releases. And I also wonder if they released it weekly to keep more people talking about the game for longer. That actually might be why. However, Tell Me Why suffers from being a very short game, with it consisting of the aforementioned 3 chapters, which took me somewhere between 2 to 3 hours per chapter to complete, which is quite possibly the worst thing I have to say about this game, is that it's over a little too quickly for my liking. But even now, looking back at it, I don't know if there was much more to tell in the story they had chosen to tell, but we will get to the game's story soon enough, as this is normally the part where I'd like to cover the game's graphics, but when talking about Tell Me Why, I feel it'd be more vital to talk about the game's atmosphere, as that has been something Don't Nod have always excelled in, but I feel with a bit of a better looking game, it allows them to make even better atmospheres. It probably helps that the game takes place in a rural village called Delos Crossings, Alaska, a fictional town based on the real town of Homer, Alaska. And from what I can see on YouTube videos on the town, it's as beautiful in real life as it is in the game. The town being home to the largest population of the Tlingit people, that population being around 800 people. However, not so small that they still get a very good representation in the game, with a character named Eddie and Michael being a part of the clan. And on top of choosing a beautiful Alaskan island, the game has basically the perfect choice in what music to use and when to use said music. But at this point, is that really a surprise for a Don't Nod game? And to top it off, every space you go into in this game just feels real. Something else that Don't Nod have always excelled in, with all the little features they add in every room you go into, making it feel cozy in all the right ways, or in all wrong ways in the terms of Mark Jefferson's photo rooms. If it's a little note left days ago, or a picture of the friends and family that you can look at and have your character comment on that to make it feel like A, they are real people, and B, you are a part of their lives. And I can't really think of any game that puts in that much effort into its environments. And if there is other games like it, they definitely don't do it as well as Don't Nod Entertainment do. And Deck 9, I guess. And then there is one more thing I want to praise the game about before moving on to its amazing story. And one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about the topic is because in previous games I have played for the channel, it was one of the worst features of the games I've played that include it. And the main reason I wanted to talk about this topic is because in previous games I've played for the channel, it has been some of the worst features in other games that I have played. Well, one of many bad features games have. That is, of course, being puzzles. And I really liked the way they did the puzzles for this game. They were hard, but not so stupidly hard that I needed to pull out ye old Google or ChatGPT to figure them out. To be honest, I'm pretty sure if I pulled out ChatGPT to get answers for a puzzle, it would give me the incorrect Wordle for last week or something like that. So, how are the puzzles done? The two twins have a book from their childhood which contains a bunch of stories they wrote with their mother. And in these stories, there are clues that line up to the puzzle you are trying to solve. But you need to search through the book, so if that's matching an animal to a tool or something along those lines, or something hidden in the text for a combination lock or something like that. But the stories in the book won't just say, for example, the bear used the sword, but it will imply it. So there is some working out to be done, but if you struggle, the other twin is also always there to give you little hints like that. Give you little hints like what story to look at or the clue may be hidden in. Or if they remember something from their childhood about that story to help you out. The only puzzle I found to be a bit difficult or stupid is one where you have to find a 3 numbers for a lockbox, and I was reading the book over and over again or looking at how many numbers are in words or how many times goblins was used in the book, and it turns out the numbers are just written down into the artwork of the story, which I never looked at, obviously good enough. Which is fine, it's just also all the other puzzles had me reading, so I was expecting the text would be more of the answer, not the imagery. And I wasted more time on that one than I cared to admit. That one was probably the closest I'd gotten during the game to asking Google for an answer, but it's good to know that game devs can make puzzles that are more than just move this box here, Avatar game I just played. But on the topic of move, it's time we move on to the game's story. And where better to start than with the twins, Tyler and Allison Ronan, or the Goblins as they are called in the puzzle stories. Or the Book of Goblins. And of course they have powers, as would it really be a Dontnod game without powers? However, I struggle to use the word powers as it's not a power like Max or Daniel? No, Sean? Sean, I think that's, I forgot, is it Sean? The guy from Life is Strange 2, or Alex from True Colors. It's not the same as a sort of power. They can't affect the outside world in any way with our power, so I don't know if it's a power or more of an ability. But the twins can communicate telepathically, or as they call it, the voice, being able to have a conversation with each other inside their head. And they can also relive memories. And the thing that makes this power very interesting is that they both remember different memories of the same event differently, as most people in the world would. But Tyler and Allison grew up in Delos Crossing in a somewhat isolated house in the Alaskan forest with their mother, Marianne. Also, whenever I'm talking about the story here, if I mention Ollie, that is also Tyler. That's the name he went by as a child before he went off to a camp, and though that makes it was a good camp, it wasn't a bad camp. But before he settled on his actual name, he went by Ollie at first, so if I slip up and use that name instead of Tyler, they are the same person. But a lot of the town would chip in helping with the kids, as Marianne was unable to hold down a job. The main people helping her out were Tessa and Tom Vecchi, the owners of the general store in town, and the only store in town for that fact. And they would let her take stuff from the store for free or pay it back later. And instead of paying it back with money, they'll just have her take shifts at the store to pay it back. But on one fateful night, as the twins were playing around, Marianne seemed a bit more off than normal, as Tyler had Allison cut his hair short, as before that night he had longer, more feminine hair, feminine hair. As he got Allison to cut his hair, Ollie then went to find his mother to show her, finding her in the barn with a shotgun, as Tyler then runs away as Marianne follows him, yelling that she is going to kill him, when Tyler ends up killing his own mother to defend himself. Or at least that's his memory of the event. See, I told you memories can be weird in this game or in real life. As the game flashes forward 10 years as Allison is waking up in her adopted father's house, the police chief Eddie Brown, who she refers to throughout the game as Uncle, and is also the officer who arrested Ollie. Allison is getting ready for a big day, as it will be the first time she has seen her brother in 10 years, ever since he was sent away to Fireweed, a juvenile residence rehabilitation facility, where he would spend 10 years learning to deal with the fact that he had to kill his own mother in self-defense. And he would also start the medical transition around this time, with the counselors at Fireweed very much helping him through this whole ordeal. However, we would learn that he hasn't gone as far as to get top surgery yet, still waiting on the sale of his childhood house to help pay for that, which is half the reason Tyler and Allison are meeting for the first time in 10 years to sell the house. However, 10 years is a long time. Let's break that down. For the first 7 years, Eddie and the staff at Fireweed thought it was best that they don't see each other. And then when Tyler turned 18, he could have left to at least see Allison, but he stayed at Fireweed as a counsellor to help people like his counsellors helped him. Also saying at one point in the game that 7 years is a hell of a lot less than 3. But sadly the game doesn't cover that as much as I would like, but I'll talk about that more when we get to that point. As they finally meet up to catch up on the ferry back to Delos Crossing, where they arrive at the old house for the first time since that night, as someone has changed the locks, so they have to find a way in under the house. This is where they also rediscover that they still have their voice and ability to telepathically talk to each other. And they get into the house. However, they become overwhelmed with emotion returning to the home when a man with a shotgun enters the house, questioning who is in the house. After a brief shock, the man lowers his gun. This man is Sam, an old friend of Marianne's who's been looking after the house. Sam sees Allison and Allison introduces him to Tyler, this being Sam's first time seeing Tyler in 10 years. But also the first time seeing Tyler as Tyler. And this is when we get the game's first big choice. It's not a don't knock game if there's not a choice and consequence system. Also, as I was just typing this, I just remembered this isn't actually the first choice. So we're going to quickly jump back to Tyler and Allison on the ferry, when Allison offers Tyler a ring that was a gift from Eddie. Apparently gift giving is a big part of the Tlingit culture, and Tyler can choose to accept the gift from Eddie, refuse the gift, and finally throw the ring into the ocean. And depending on your choice in this decision, the twins can be aligned. But back to the decision I wanted to talk about. Sam reacts to Tyler the way you'd expect a small town fisherman to react to him, and Tyler is then given the option to attack Sam or inform him on what he's doing wrong. And if you do that, the next day Sam comes in and apologizes to Tyler and told him he did some research on the topic to become better informed. Which I really like that they included this as an option. You know, some quote about don't yell at the stupid but educate them, or something along those lines. I'm not sure, it's probably a quote, I can't think of it at the moment. But anyways, now that they are back at the house, they do some exploring and use the Book of Goblins to solve the lock on their mother's bedroom door. Searching her room, where Tyler finds a book on how to raise a transgender child, which both twins are very shocked by this, counting the fact that Marianne was seemingly yelling bloody murder at Tyler for cutting his hair and trying to look more like a boy. And the rarity of those books in the early 2000s means it wasn't just a whim sort of thing. This would have been a hard book to get, which pushes Tyler to want to learn more about his mother and how she was thinking leading up to that night. So the next day, Tyler and Allison head into town to collect some stuff for the house. And apart from meeting Allison's best friend Michael, Tyler and Allison have a chat with Tessa, their mother's old friend. And this is once again where the twins remember a fight that Tessa and Marianne had. Differently, but either way it is found out that Tessa was emailing and talking to a conversion camp and telling Marianne about it. After hitting a dead wall, the twins go to the police station so that Allison can meet up with Eddie, which is an interesting experience for Tyler to say the least, as it's his first time in the station since he was being sent off to Fireweed for killing Marianne. But after looking around for a bit, they meet with Eddie and interrogate him for some information on Marianne, asking to look at her file, which of course Eddie can't just hand it over, which leads to Tyler and Eddie getting into a fight. This is where they bring up the 7, 3, 10-year thing, and my only thing I want to bring up here is I think Tyler's more of a dick in this than anyone else, as yes, the court said that the twins shouldn't see each other for the 7 years, but once he turned 18 he could have left to go and see Allison. Now yes, you may think he's not leaving, because he wants to stay there and help people the way that people helped him. Which is fair, you could think that, but he could leave, go say hello, catch up with her, then come back. There's nothing saying that they couldn't meet up for a day. It's not like the second you leave the camp as a counselor, you lose your spot and can never return. That's not how that works. Because Tyler is right when he says that 7 is a hell of a lot longer than 3, but 10's a hell of a lot longer than 7. But hey, that's just me, and that's time for chapter 1 to end. As it does, we get a little flashback that I'm sure nothing important happens. Oh wait, it changes the player's understanding of the story. Well, let's see what happens, as it's that most vital night in the game. The night Mary Ann died, where we found out that there was a character called the Mad Hunter there, who was from the Book of Goblins. However, it's already sort of implied that every character in the Book of Goblins is based off someone from the town. But the more troubling and impactful knowledge is that Tyler was not the one to kill Mary Ann. It was Allison, Tyler taking the blame for his sister. Which makes you wonder even more why he didn't return after those 7 years. But let's move on with Chapter 2, which opens with one of the things Don't Nod has always done perfectly, and that is adding normality into their games, as Tyler and Allison are going around the house picking out what items to sell, donate or keep for themselves, whilst reliving childhood memories, good and bad, with their power. The only thing I dislike about this opening for the chapter is there isn't really an importance around the trash keep sell labels you add to items. But after labeling for a bit, the twins decide to find out which characters in the Book of Goblins are who in the town, in an attempt to find out who the Mad Hunter is. With Mary Ann being the princess and them being the goblins, they find out who people like Eddie and Sam are, but leaves them with the question, who is the Mad Hunter? But Sam shows up to help them around the house, going to the barn and getting the power back on. When the twins get a memory of Eddie and Mary Ann fighting the day she died. But before, Eddie said he hadn't seen Mary Ann for weeks. They then go to the station and break into the evidence room to look for their mother's case file. When Eddie finds them and they open up to each other. Tessa had made a complaint to Eddie about Mary Ann's treatment of the twins, and Eddie was forced to alert Child Services, who had opened up a case on Mary Ann, and Eddie went over that day to warn and let Mary Ann know. When they go and find Tessa to talk to her about the Child Services and reporting her to Eddie, going to the store to see if she's there. However, she is not. They then confront Tom, who basically plays politician on them. I forgot to mention he's running for mayor of the town. Michael then mentions that Tessa is at the cemetery, so the twins help Michael finish up at the store, where Tyler and Michael get a nice little flirt segment, and then the twins go to the cemetery for the first time since their mother's funeral, when they have a bit of a breakdown at their mother's tombstone, with new information enlightening them towards the deeper struggles she was going through. When Tessa shows up and gets into another yelling match, when Tessa drops the fact that Sam left his wife around the same time he started helping Mary Ann around the house. And Tessa still thinks that Tyler can be cured of his condition, which is yeah, I understand why the twins yell at her and don't forgive her. At least in my playthrough they don't forgive
I have to
her.
know something first. Are you good with who I am?
You went through a very challenging time, and anyone could come out on the other side confused. There's help available out there, if you'll take it.
Keep your help.
So that's it then. We're done because I believe something different than you?
No, it's because you don't believe in me.
I see.
When they return to the house, the barn is on fire. As Allison rushes inside to the house to get a fire extinguisher, Tyler goes to the barn when a hooded man knocks him down and runs away. After Tyler comes to and they put out the fire, they explore the barn to see why someone would be setting it on fire. To find a box hidden under the floor after opening it using the Book of Goblins to solve a 3-number combination lock. They find notes between Mary Ann and the twins' father. This event bringing back more memories of that night as Tyler pushes for answers going towards the dock, as Allison is very reluctant to do so. Only after a small argument she agrees to push on, as they have a memory of Tyler and Allison listening to their mother argue with whoever their father is on the dock, which his voice unfortunately gives it away before the true reveal, as he's all cloaked and we don't know who he is, but the person has a very identifiable voice, but I'll put that aside for now. As Tyler pushes for more information, Allison refuses, getting overwhelmed with the memory of the night she killed her mother. They get into a bit of a yelling match with each other until Allison leaves, that ending the chapter, with the twins further apart than they have ever been before, even counting those 10 years, but also on the edge of finding out who their father is and why they lost their mother that night. Chapter 3 opens with Allison alone in her house listening to music in a bit of a depression slump when Eddie leaves a note about some breakfast he made and that today is the day that she is meeting with someone about an apartment she and Michael are trying to get in Juneau. However, whilst collecting all the documents, her power starts to glitch out, showing random memories of the night her mother died, until Michael and Tom show up to see if she's okay. After that, Michael is sent to check in on Tyler and Allison goes to meet up with Eddie at the station. But after talking to some of the officers whilst waiting, Allison has a bit of a panic attack. Luckily, it would seem she has had these before, pulling out an app on her phone and going outside to help manage her breathing, when Eddie comes out to help her and bring her into his office, having a talk with Allison, when Allison comes out and tells Eddie the truth.
Uncle, it was me. I was the one who had the scissors.
What? What are you saying?
She was threatening Tyler. So I stabbed her.
Eddie takes this a lot better than I thought he would have for a by-the-books cop. After talking, Allison goes off to talk to Sam, as it looks more and more likely that he is the twins' father. But it turns out Sam is not their father. He was just very good friends with Mary Ann. She helped him a lot after he'd broken his leg and couldn't get out of bed at all. But while showing some old photos, Allison spots an addict in the barn that they had never seen before. And whilst Allison has been off with Eddie and Sam, Tyler had met up with Michael and they have been having a bit of a fishing date, talking with each other all throughout the day until the twins are reunited that night to investigate the unknown addict. Inside the addict is a whole fairy tale-esque puzzle game that the twins can solve to find out little tidbits of information about Mary Ann's past before and whilst living in Delos Crossing, gaining the courage to return to the docks and find out who their father is for good. Focusing on the memory, they see Tom Vecchi, calling him down to the house where they confront him.
She's a real busy bee. Ever since I started campaigning, she's picked up the slack around here. She's practically running the place. Been a little all over the place lately.
Asking why he was there the night Mary Ann died, which is when he gives us his memory of the night, when he says that Mary Ann wasn't saying that she was going to kill Tyler, she didn't want to hurt him, saying that right up until Allison stabs her, as Allison is also now questioning her memory of the night, with the nightmares and glitches she has been having in her powers leading her to believe what Tom is saying. Which is when we are given the game's final memory choice to pick. Did Mary Ann threaten to kill Tyler that night? Or was it all a little confused in their heads, getting a previous argument that Mary Ann and Tom had on the dock where Marianne screamed, "I'm going to kill you," with the same shotgun she held whilst running after Tyler. So what did I choose, Tom or Tyler's version? Well, I went with Tom's. I could see why Tyler would believe his version. He was going through a lot around that time, just trying to be his true self and seemingly being shot down by his mother at every turn. But throughout the game, I believe we are told that Marianne was not that simple. She was trying to understand and help Tyler throughout his journey, but when Eddie came that day and told her that Child Services have a strong case against her, she snapped that night, choosing that she would rather not live than live without her goblins. Choosing to take her own life in the barn that night until Tyler interrupted her to show off his new haircut, the attic being her note to the children. Now Allison can start to move on from the fact that she took her mother's life when the game jumps forward in time, giving a wind down of the story. The house has just sold and Tyler is doing a final walkthrough as he calls Allison on the phone, as Allison had moved to Juneau with Michael. As they talk about life, Tom is now losing the election in town, Allison is moving onwards with her life, and Tyler is getting ready to become the mountain man he always wanted to be, working on Denali, and getting ready for top surgery to become more of himself. As the game finally ends with Tyler reaching out to a mentor from Fireweed, leaving a voice note talking about grief and how he thinks he's finally in a good spot as the game fades to black. So for what was Dontnod's first attempt at a game after leaving or getting kicked out of the Life is Strange franchise, how'd they go? Well, as you may have expected, it is a very good game. I think it's possibly even better than the Life is Strange games they worked on, as I feel the game covers a very interesting topic of having different memories from other people on the same events, which is a very human thing. As we get more and more away from something that's happened, our brain can fill in the spots. And then of course it is very cool that they were able to bring the first trans man to a AAA game. I say they were able to, it's not like any other developer could have done it before, it's just they were the ones to finally bite the nail and do it. And at the same time, it's not like his only trait, he's still a very well developed character outside of just being, for lack of a better word, the token trans person in media. Like everything else I have played by Dontnod, it's been knocked out of the park. From Life is Strange to Jusant, tell me why they haven't missed yet. Maybe the next game I play from them may be a little bit different, but we'll have to find that out when I finally get around to playing Lost Records, probably sometime next year, maybe. But I think I've taken up enough of your time. If you have played Tell Me Why, let me know what you think about it below. And since you're still here, I think I've earned a like. Maybe? I don't know, that's up to you to decide. Anyways, I hope to see you around in another video. Peace.